Hey everyone, welcome to my fourth speed painting on this channel. This is my painting Macaria, which I did over on Twitch. If you want to see my process in real time, I encourage you to come and subscribe and follow me on my Twitch channel, which the details will be under the video. So I started by transferring my sketch onto my watercolor paper, and for this painting I'm using Hahnemule, I'm not quite sure how you say that, Hahnemule Matt watercolor paper. It's got a fine texture. It's still texture, but it's the less textured of my watercolor paper. And I'm doing the background wash, and I'm using 4 different blues. I think 4. Yes, 4. I'm using French Ultramarine, Prussian blue, Cyan, and Phthalo Turquoise. And I'm using salt to create a background texture. I'm also drying it because I want to paint over that. And I retransferred my sketch because I had lost some details. Now I'm going and trying some different colors for the moon in the background. I wanted something that was quite warm but not too dark. And I went with a tan color. It's actually very close to the skin tone I usually use on my paintings. So I use that. I did add a little bit of purple, I think, to it to make it a bit more neutral. And I've removed all the salt in the background, and I'm doing another wash, this time with Paynes gray, and I'm adding a little bit more salt on this Paynes gray to give it a bit of texture, and I'm drying it with my heat gun. I don't always use my heat gun, except when I'm in a bit of a rush and I want things to dry very quickly. That's also why I didn't use masking fluid, because I don't like the way the masking fluid reacts with the heat gun. And I'm adding a 3rd layer of gray to emphasize some areas, and I'm also lightening anyway the background in places to make it look like space, and I'm adding some craters on the moon. So I'm still using the same tan color with a bit more gray and a bit more purple, I think, in the mix. And I'm mixing the skin tone, and I needed to retransfer my sketch in parts, and yep. So for the skin tone, I'm using a mix of New Gamboge and Rose of Ultramarine. Both paints are by Daniel Smith. And here you saw me retransfer my sketch again. For the hair, I started with a New Gamboge layer. New Gamboge, or did I start straight with? Actually, I went straight with Quinacridone Gold. Didn't remember that. See, it's just watching the video again. And for the how can I say, the details on the dress, I'm using Alizarin Crimson. And I will add several layers. I'm using burnt umber for the handle of the weapon, and for the accessories of a outfit, and the boots and the wrist thing. I'm not quite sure how you call them. And more red, and I'm having a snack apparently. And I'm using a mix of a Prussian blue and Paynes gray, very, very light mix to start the color on the ribbon on the weapon and on the weapon itself, the blade. And I'm adding more colors to the trim on the dress, and I'm going to start working on the hair. So I'm using a mix of New Gamboge or Quinacridone Gold with a bit of Alizarin Crimson to give a dark orange. And here I'm using a bit of Sandal Red, which is a bit more orange than the Alizarin Crimson, because I felt it wasn't interesting enough. And I'm removing the tape, and I love removing the tape. And I'm starting on the shading on the skin. I'm using the same color. I didn't add anything to it as a base skin tone. And a bit more shading here and there. It took me about 12 hours to finish this painting. There's a part I forgot to record that was about an hour, so yeah, it's about 12 hours. That's another of my sketch I was showing off on stream. I usually try to remove all the stuff that is not relevant to the painting when I'm editing this video for YouTube, but sometimes I miss a bit here and there. And I'm using a size 2 paintbrush for the very detailed hair. There's going to be many layers. And I'm adding the shading on the dress. So I wanted to keep the dress white, but I went with the grey shading, and I'm going to add a very faint blue layers on the dress because it was the white of the paper is actually a bit warm, and I wanted the dress to look to not be so warm. It's a night scene, so it shouldn't be, you know, like warmed by the sun kind of color, or more by the moonlight, which is a bit more of a cold light, if that makes sense. And so I'm shading the underside of the dress, and I'm mixing more skin tone. This time I'm adding a little bit of French ultramarine to it to give it more of a blue tint, a cold tint. And I'm starting working on the eyes and the mouth. And I'm adding a layer of Quinacridone gold on the hair because I wanted it to be a bit more golden. And more shading. It's so many layers of shading. I start very light, and then I will add more shading as I progress on the painting. More depth, more colors. Though I do try to keep my colors fairly limited. For this painting, because the background is very blue and very cold, I wanted her to be a bit warmer, even though she's death, or my incarnation of death. When I was, well, to be completely fair, I knew I wanted to do a painting of death, but I wanted it to be attractive, not like the Grim Reaper or anything scary. And then I was searching for a name for her, and I'm always inspired, and I love Greek mythology. So I was looking up a Greek mythology, and there's this goddess that, called Macaria, who is the blessed death. She's someone who will take you into the underworld, but it's a good death, if that makes sense. So I thought that was perfect for her. So here I'm working on the shading again, and for the ribbon and dress and detail, the red details, I've mixed the red with a little bit of French ultramarine to create a dark purple, and that works pretty well. And I keep adding more hair and more detail on the face. So it took me a few tries to get the nose right. I wasn't too happy about the way it looked when I was doing the shading, but in the end I'm fine with it. It's such a small detail, but it's very central to the face. So now I've moved on to colored pencil, and I'm using Polychromos colored pencil. I like them a lot, and I'm adding more detail, more shading, more texture to the sketch. I'm checking my sketch as well, my original sketch you can see on the side, so I can see where I need to add more details and where I'm missing things. So I really wanted to have this light shining, so I'm gonna add a halo around it with colored pencil, and the same around the moon. It's a bit more tamed and discreet, I guess, I don't know, or light around the moon, but there is a halo around the moon, which I really like. And yeah, that's pretty much it. Now I'm adding the last few details and the last few highlights with gouache, and my original sketch had all those little dots to represent gems or you know, rivet or whatever. I did consider doing them in gold, but in the end I kept them white, and I'm happy I did. Some highlight in the eyes and in the hair. Give her quite a not strong, but definitely noticeable rim lighting, because she's backlit by the moon. She kind of need to have those highlights on the edge of a silhouette. And finally, I'm doing the stars on the background, and as you could see, I used a bit of paper to do that. Anyway, you saw it all. Thank you all for watching, and I'll see you in my next video. Bye bye.